Hey friends, Mindy here. I have a process video for you today. This is going to be for day 1 of Take Heed from Bythewell4God. I just started with pulling out my little page for today, and I have these printables. These were an additional printable set that you could get that to coordinate with the kit. This is a digital set. If you buy the bundle when it goes into pre-sale, you actually get this set of printables for free. So anyway, I wanted to use the day 1 label that says Take Heed. That's the title for today. And then I also have pulled out all of the journaling cards and flashcards and even the scripture cards from the scripture card set that coordinate with this day. After I read through the devotional the first time, I went through and matched up all of those things, and I put them in my little storage box that I created. I can link that video down below. And I just have them all sorted by day, so it's just real easy to pull everything out that I need. And then as I was deciding to which pattern paper I wanted to use, I decided to go ahead and pull out this one that has this kind of orange color to match the flowers on the front. And then I wanted to just add some hymnal paper on there just to kind of have another kind of tone in the background, just to mute that orange down just a little bit. So I glued down this hymnal paper, and then I just tore the edges so it would be nice and kind of rough around the edge. And then I am using my decal trimmer from Tim Holtz to trim down the scripture card. Again, this was the scripture card that it was a separate set of cards. I'm going to actually be incorporating them this month in my actual journal, because I'm going to take advantage of having as many of these scriptures already written out for me as possible, because there are so many scriptures and so many notes and things that I want to include, that this will just help me save a little bit of time. And of course they're beautiful and everything. So I decided to just take a little bit of this, just maybe 1.5 inches or so of this paper. I'm just going to add it over here on the left side, but I did use that decal trimmer to do that as well. And then I'm just distressing all of the pieces with I'm actually using Distress Oxide and Vintage Photo for this particular page, because Vintage Photo tends to lean a little bit to the orange a little bit, and so I just felt like that would go with these other papers that I have on here. So I am going to glue this down along the left side there, and it's that edge is kind of rough on the side, so I will end up trimming down a little bit of that hymnal paper so it's not sticking out behind my my pattern paper here. So you can kind of see it's kind of poking out. I'm just going to trim that down just a little bit. It's not necessary, but just something I wanted to do. And then I'm going to kind of center this scripture card here on the front, and I want to add this digital item that says it's the number 1, and it says Take Heed, because that's the title for day 1. And so I printed those on clear sticker paper, so I'm just going to add that right to the front of that card. And I don't want it to stand out, to be like the focal point. I just want it on there so that I know. And then I just burned that down with my bone folder to kind of help it disappear into the background. And then I decided I needed a little bit something on this hymnal paper, so I'm taking Carved Pumpkin and Wild Honey Distress crayons, and I'm kind of mixing them together with my water brush here, and I'm just going to add some little paint splatters over on this hymnal paper, just to try to bring that orange over to this side of the page a little bit better. My papers here are roughly 6 inches tall by about 4.5 inches wide, just for reference. I have a video of the setup for the journal that I created for Take Heed. I will link that down in the description as well. So this is what my cover section is going to look like. And now I'm going to move to the inside. And again, I have all of these scriptures and journaling cards and all these things. I end up not using every single one of them. A couple of the flashcards actually didn't end up on here, and that's fine. I will save those because I can still use them for layering pieces or different things throughout the rest of this journal. So I wanted to add a little bit of color here down the middle of this, because I'm going to use some more of that pattern paper. And I wanted to see how this distress crayon was going to do if I just kind of scribbled it out, and you can see it left the lines, and so I didn't want that. So I ended up using some packaging, and I just scribbled it out on there, added some water to dissolve the pigment, and then kind of did the smooshing technique on there. I could have done this with an ink pad. I don't really know why I was in the mood to use my distress crayons, I guess. It would have been easier to do this with my ink pad, but that's okay. So you can see I'm just trying to make sure I have enough in that section in the middle. I dried it in between, added some layers, and just kept working on it until I got just a little bit of color in the background there. I'm not shooting for anything specific. I just wanted to knock back some of the white. The paper that I have in this journal is Bristol paper, so it's nice and bright white, but it doesn't necessarily, I don't know, it just felt a little too stark white for what I wanted to do for today. So I'm going to add these pieces. This is the rest of that pattern paper. I just cut it into 2 sections, and I used, again, the decal trimmer on the edge of the part that's going to be toward the middle, just to give it some interest. And then again, I distressed all of that with vintage photo, just to kind of try to bring out that decal edge just a little bit so you could see it a little bit more. And then just glued that down. And I decided at this point, like, I'm going to try and just kind of get an idea for where I want to put everything. So I have another one of the scripture cards. I have a journaling card that I wrote out a scripture. I have a flashcard that has a scripture on the back as well. I have some notes on this label that I wanted to include. This is actually a quote from the devotional, and because I had written out the scripture down at the bottom, I went ahead and just covered up the scripture reference on this flashcard. I'm just going to glue all that down, and I just really felt like that background in the middle just really needed a little bit more interest. And so I am pulling out the stamp set. It's called Take Florals, I believe, that released with this kit, and I just want to add a real subtle background. So at this point, I'm going to take out some more Tattered Rose. This is the same color that I used in that background with that distress crayon, and I'm just going to kind of do a little bit of tone on tone stamping here. And I'm actually going to, I'm just using one of the line florals. I don't want it to be super busy or anything because there's already kind of a busy background back there, but with the orange sections. And so I'm actually doing a first impression and then a second impression, just so that I have some different varying levels of ink back there. And so I'm just kind of stamping all over, just trying to create a little bit of interest in the background. Second generation stamping is just a way to get a more subtle impression. And I'm not worried that if they're not perfect or anything, because it's really just the background pieces. And then I came in with another one of the stamps from this stamp set and just stamped this one in a few places, not as many, because this was actually like a cluster of stamps. I just wanted just a little bit more interest with something with a different size. And then and that was it. And then I went back in with the Carved Pumpkin and Wild Honey Distress Crayons. Again, I mixed the 2 colors and just added a little bit of splatter down the middle of this section as well, just to add another little bit of interest back there. And now I'm going to glue down all of my pieces. So this was actually one of the journaling cards that came in the kit, and it had a scripture written on it, but I had used that scripture already, and so I just ended up flipping it over and using it for the journaling lines on the back, where I wrote out a different verse on there. And then I'm going to glue down my flashcard and this label up here in the top left hand corner. And I left that journaling card as a pocket so that I can tuck that flashcard in there. And I'm also going to leave this scripture card here as a pocket as well, because I want to include a card or a tag with some prayers on it. So this devotional, I've already read through it once, and it's just, there's a lot of scripture, there's a lot of thought-provoking questions and things to really just kind of take your time and work through, and really just kind of let these things sink in. The title of the devotional is Take Heed, and so I really want to kind of slow down and really pay attention to the warnings and the nudges that I'm getting from the Lord through working through this devotional. And so I want to make sure that I am including space on these days that I can include that. So for me, for this day, this is going to be a prayer. Obviously, I'm going to write that off camera, and then I'm just going to tuck it behind that scripture card. And so what I did, go ahead and just, I inked up the edges. I trimmed that tag down. It was kind of tall, so I just trimmed it down a little bit, rounded the corners. I inked the edge with some vintage photo again. And then I disassembled one of the bow clips, and I trimmed down the paper or the ribbon in half. And then I'm just going to tie this kind of into a little knot here at the top of my tag. And it's just going to tuck right in there. And then off camera, again, like I said, I will write out my prayer and just kind of keep it tucked in there. So that is basically my page for today. If you like this video, I would really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. That just helps other people find my channel. Subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time, bye.